All right, so we are going to get started, you guys. For those of you who are new to my community and to Achieve with Athena, I just wanted to take a second and first of all, thank you for being here. And also I wanted to introduce myself. So my name's Athena Concannon. I'm the owner and founder of achievewithathena.com. And I am also a personal trainer and fitness and lifestyle coach. Now, my mission through my business and through the work that I do online is to really help women ditch dieting, ditch perfectionism, and do this so that they can step into their most empowered selves and fall in love with their fit lives so that they can really look at their nutrition, they can look at their exercise and their self-care all as things that really can enhance their lives and be a privilege, something they look forward to, rather than something that's just another check off a to-do list, something they should do, or something that feels like a chore. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. And for any of you who are new to the Bite-Sized Fit Talk series, this is just a little something that I started a couple of months ago, really as a way to come together and just give you guys more information on seasonal or relevant topics. So in November, for example, we talked about Thanksgiving and veggies, and you guys got all sorts of veggie full recipes. And in December, we talked about how to navigate all of the booze at holiday events a little more mindfully. And this month, we're going to talk about how to have a more empowered approach around your language when it comes to nutrition. And specifically, we're going to talk about the phrase getting back on track. And this certainly can apply to our workouts as well. But for tonight, we're going to talk mainly about this in the realm of food. Now, I'm sure that this phrase is something that you have heard many people saying at this time of year, at the beginning of January, after the new year, after the holidays, and everybody is saying, I got to get back on track. I just got to get back on track. I can't wait to be back into my routine. And I don't know, maybe you guys, if you want to throw into the chat box, or if any of you guys relate to this, like hands up, if you feel like you tend to say this phrase. And it doesn't have to necessarily even be right now that you're saying it, but maybe I'll give you guys a few examples of when I tend to hear this the most. And I've been guilty of this too, you guys. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to be on like a high horse or anything. I myself have found myself saying this phrase, and I just want to get across what tends to happen from a mindset trap kind of thing when we find ourselves saying it over and over. Okay. So maybe it's a situation where you are on vacation, right? And say by the end of it, what are you telling yourself, or what are you saying out loud when it comes to how you're going to approach your food when you get home or you're eating? I can't wait to be back on track. Maybe there have been a few days in a row where your routine is interrupted, and let's use the example of a snow day or a couple snow days in a row, and you haven't gone to work and you're at home with the kids and this, that, the other thing, and you can't wait to get back on track. Or even just take Mondays as a day in general. That tends to be like the day, right? Where everyone's declaring themselves back on track, got to get back to it, back, especially after the weekends. Of course, this can be day to day, weekday to weekday, but the weekends, because there tend to be more social events, or again, not in your regular weekday routine, it tends to just be a time where you end up feeling come Monday that you need to be back on track. So you guys see where, and I'm sure you can see even in your life, like where these types of scenarios might come into play. And when we're saying getting back on track, it doesn't necessarily even mean that, oh, I think you're starting a new diet. I don't necessarily think that everyone's just like running to start Weight Watchers are like doing all these new diets, but even just the language about starting over, getting back on the wagon, all of that kind of stuff. Here's the problem with it. The problem is that this kind of language perpetuates the perfectionist mentality around food and around nutrition. And hear me out with this, because most of my clients, when they come to me to work with me, they want to get lean. They want to lose some body fat. They want to tone up. And yes, they want to have a lot of other things with that, that just inherently come with that. Increased confidence, increased energy, more peace of mind, less stress, better sleep. Like all that comes with, the toning up and the losing fat. But most of my clients come to me with that as their goal. And when I ask them, what do they feel is one of the number one challenges or number one struggles, obstacles, barriers, things that are holding them back, the majority of them will tell me it's this all or nothing mindset around their food or their exercise or their exercise. And it's almost like if one thing in their mind is off track, then everything becomes off track to them. So that could be something as small as like one piece of candy, is a big deal to a lot of people. They feel like, oh, I'm off track. Okay. So that is the number one thing that I'm hearing all the time from my clients. And they just think that there's something wrong with them. Then they beat themselves up. And really the problem is more in that approach. And the approach is that perfectionist approach. For your long-term nutrition success, which is another way of saying consistency, right? There's really no room for that perfectionism. It does not exist. And to use the phrase on track or off track implies that there's no in between. It's on or off, no middle ground. And it's counterproductive because it really feeds that mindset that if we make any mistake, if we slack off, if we relax, like I'm using all of these words and quotes, but it implies that if we do any of those things in any way whatsoever, then we're off track, which means we've failed, right? So hands up, you guys, if any of you can relate to this type of mindset, okay? Yeah, yep. Seeing a lot of hands go up. Awesome. So, I mean, not awesome, but you know what I mean? Like, I think it helps to know that this is something that resonates with other people and it's not just you. So again, there needs to be this middle ground when it comes to our nutrition. This is what I will often refer to as the nutritional gray. And what I want you guys to do is actually picture a light switch, okay? And I want you to picture two types. There's the one kind of light switch that's like on off. And then there's another light switch and it's one that has like a dimmer and you can move that little dial. You guys know what I'm talking about? And that is really how I want you guys to start thinking about your eating. And if you think about it, you're always somewhere on that track. You're always on the track. You're either just eating in a way that is more aligned with your goals or less aligned with your goals, but you're not off. You're not off the track, and you're not a failure if you're a little bit like eating down toward the lower end. Okay, you're not a failure. To lose fat, to achieve the physique results that we want, we cannot expect 100% compliance all of the time. You need to allow yourself that flexibility and that wiggle room, and that is where that dimmer comes in, okay? It is possible to get the changes that you want. You just need first of all, you need a slight calorie deficit and you need hormonal balance, which means that your hunger is in check, your energy is in check, and your cravings are in check, okay? It's more than just about calories. You definitely need to have that balance. You can achieve both of those things. The slight calorie deficit, we're not talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, okay? We're talking about a couple hundred. You can achieve that slight calorie deficit and you can achieve your ideal hormonal balance for you by eating real, whole, nutrient-dense foods 80 to 90% of the time. Okay, that's not that on switch, 100% on. That's somewhere higher on that that dimmer track, right? The other 10 to 20% is up to you for figuring out where you can fit in your chocolate, your wine, your pizza, whatever it is for you that you consider a treat, that you consider fun, because that stuff, you guys, it has to be part of your plan. And if you're on a plan or trying to do an approach that doesn't allow for that kind of stuff, that's a whole nother bite-sized fit talk, and we need to chat. But your plan has to allow for these things. Now, your plan doesn't need to allow for them every single day and in ridiculous quantities. Not what I'm saying. Not what I'm saying. But a lot of times, a client will come to me, for example, and they'll tell me, I went off the rails this weekend. I really was so bad, and I have to rein it in. And this week I'm going to get back on track. And I'll ask them, well, what did you eat? That was so bad. And when I hear what they say, sometimes my answer is sometimes that's it. Because it's really not anything to freak out about. But this is how much perfection has a hold on us. It's this impossible standard, and it's been created because of diet culture. It's been created because of all these like picture perfect things that we see on Instagram. It's been just created by this like world that we live in, really. Okay. And we don't need this rigidity. So, if you are going out to eat on the weekend and you decide that you're going to order a dessert, I'm not that concerned about the dessert. Having dessert doesn't mean that you've gone off the rails and that you're off track. Having dessert for every meal for 7 days in the week, you're a little bit lower on that dimmer, that's for sure. But one doesn't mean that light switch has turned off all the way, to go back to that example. Okay. So again, this is where that perfectionist mentality really can hold us back. And what I want you guys to do as an action item is to start just noticing and building the awareness around the language that you're using when it comes to your food. I want, even in the next 1 to 2 weeks, I want you to start even just tallying, maybe on a note on your phone, or even, just in your head is fine. But really notice, when do you say things that imply on, off, all, or nothing? And then I want you to really take an honest approach with yourself. So that step one is that noticing your language, okay, the self-awareness. Step two is taking a bird's eye view, asking yourself, okay, am I really so off, or is this perfectionism creeping in? And sometimes you're going to be eating in a way that's really not treating your body so well. And other times it is going to be, okay, yeah, that was actually just moderation. I gave the example this past weekend. For instance, I had a bunch of my college girlfriends over and their families, and I definitely did not eat moderately this weekend. Eating moderately might be having, 1 to 2 cookies, but I definitely ate more than that. Or maybe it would be having 1 to 2 glasses of wine, and I drank more than that. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that this weekend I ate or drank moderately. I did not. However, that is not my norm. It's not something that happens every day or every weekend by any means. And I feel that for me, a weekend where I am moderate and a weekend where I am, that happens, a weekend where I'm eating kind of like I did this past weekend, where it's not as frequent, either of those things are going to be part of my life. Either of those times or circumstances are normal. Either way is normal. Okay. If you're eating in excessive volume all the time, that's not moderate. But you're going to have some weekends that just happens, or nights, or whatever it is for you. But what matters isn't necessarily beating yourself up about it or saying, okay, I'm going to just start this new restrictive approach. What matters here is recognizing it and just asking yourself, what's your next best choice? Okay, so we're noticing your language around it. We're taking that bird's eye view, getting that honest approach. Okay, where are you along that light track, that light dimmer switch, and then asking yourself, what's your next best choice? And when you do this, you are putting yourself in control. You are now in the driver's seat, and being in control, you guys, is not the same thing as deprivation. Self-control and self-deprivation are different. So I'll give you an example. I'll continue with my cookie example from the weekend, right? I could say I'm swearing off sugar. I could say I'm never going to have a cookie again. It's unrealistic. Or I could say today I am choosing blank, and that's a more empowered approach. Yesterday I didn't wake up and swear off cookies. Yesterday I woke up and I said, what does my body need right now? And my body needed to have some hard-boiled eggs and a green juice for breakfast. You could say, what can I add to my day so that I can feel blank? And maybe that's so that you can feel less bloated. Maybe it's that you can feel more energized. And maybe if you didn't really eat in a way that didn't make you feel so hot, maybe if you're just getting trapped in that perfectionist mentality, maybe what you need is to add some self-compassion into your language. You don't actually really need to change much up about the way you're eating. So there's a couple different, obviously, circumstances at play here, but when you are approaching your next best choice from a place of empowerment rather than saying, I am going to get back on track. I am going, that makes it seem, again, that you have to white knuckle your way in. That is making it seem like there's going to be things that you can't eat, that you shouldn't eat, that there's no room for that in your life. And that approach is what keeps people stuck. That's going to lead you right to another weekend of going a little bit overboard, and another weekend of that, and another weekend of that, rather than just knowing that that's going to happen from time to time, and it isn't the norm. Okay, so I really want you guys, as a takeaway from tonight's Fit Talk, to really just think about this cycle. A lot of us stay in it because it's what's comfortable and it's what we know. It's like when we declare ourselves starting over, we're in control, but you are in control every single day with your next best choice, okay? So that said, if anybody has any questions or comments, or this is resonating with you, please put it in the chat. I welcome any questions that you have about it. And while I'm waiting to hear if there's any of that, I do want to invite you guys, if you haven't signed up already, next Thursday, I am going to be offering a free webinar training called Conquer Your Cravings. And on this webinar, it's going to be a little different format than these casual fit talks. I'm going to have slides. It's going to be a little bit longer. And I'm also going to be offering some freebies and bonuses at the end of it for anybody who is on with me live. But on this webinar, we're going to be talking about the nutritional must-knows for you to stop your mindless snacking. We're going to talk about willpower, because all of that kind of relates to what we're talking about tonight too. And we're going to really get into what the different types of cravings are, pinpoint how they're going to be maybe messing up our day-to-day, getting in the way of our fitness goals, getting in the way of our mindset. And I want you guys to really leave that webinar next week understanding the exact reasons you're getting these cravings potentially in the first place, and figuring out a few ways that you can make some tweaks, okay, here and there. I think that a lot of times when we are feeling like we got to get back on track, right, with our nutrition, it's because we are feeling a little out of control with our cravings. We don't know necessarily how to navigate those. Okay, so I want to leave you guys on that webinar with a better way to navigate your day-to-day so that you can feel, again, more in control around your food instead of the other way around. So many people feel out of control with their food, and I'm talking about this a lot this month. My really mission is to have you guys feel like you are always an empowered eater. All right. And we're going to talk a lot about willpower, how that's not an effective strategy, and so forth. Glad you mentioned eating cookies. You can relate to that. Yes, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And you tend to say get back on track all the time. Yeah. So really, is it actually too many desserts? Is it moderate amount of desserts? But it's really that awareness, taking that honest approach, and then next best decision. That is that more empowered way. Okay. So I hope you guys found this helpful, at least a little bit eye-opening. Again, tonight I don't have any like recipes or anything to show you, or I'm not going to send you a PDF after. Tonight it was more about mindset and just figuring out how to take that language we're using and make it better so that we cannot feel so on, off, all or nothing. Because that's the number one thing my peeps are telling me, is that all or nothing keeps them stuck. So we got to find a better way. And that language is the first way. Okay. It's the first step in that way. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.